What's good, people? Hotep Jesus. We back with another sharp conversation with Hotep Jesus. Got a wonderful show lined up for you today with some very intelligent, reputable young gentlemen. We're going to be talking about raising money, capital, for your startup venture. But before we get into that, let's pay the bills. As you already know, you can vote for your favorite grifter at grifties.com. The app is live now, grifties.com. Make sure y'all go check that out. Go vote for your favorite or least favorite grifter, however you want to look at it. I just saw an article come across my email today. My alerts popped up and said, central bankers about 86, according to the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, are actively exploring the development of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, in an effort to defend their territory from cryptocurrencies. Bank of America analysis said in a Wednesday note to clients. CBDCs effectively combine the efficiency of cryptocurrency transactions with the safeguards of a central bank-backed asset like cash. Cash is backed by the central bank. I don't know what that means. And though highly radical, the implementation would also make it easier for governments to implement the monetary policy measures that have helped keep the economy afloat during the pandemic. This to me sounds like a lot of fear. That's what that sounds like. You start using all these terms like we're stupid. You know, the average person will understand some of this stuff, but if you're not familiar with money, the history of money, monetary policy, so on and so forth, you know, there's some bull, BS, garbage. So on that note, Coinbase app. Make sure I get into them. Stack your Satoshis, get your Bitcoin from the Hotep's Coinbase app or CoinbaseApp.com if you're familiar with that link as well. You'll get live notifications whenever somebody signs up with your link. You can go in and you can earn Bitcoin, essentially promote and earn five fiat dollars worth of Bitcoin every time somebody signs up and rounds up, at least 5 roundups. You get an email alert once they do sign up, and you get another email alert once that cash is, or I should say, Bitcoin is deposited in your account. That's Coinbase.app. A lot of people like to say, oh, you know, I want to buy Bitcoin. One of the best ways to get Bitcoin is not even to buy it, it's to earn it. It's practically free. Nothing's better than free Bitcoin. So make sure I go get in tune, Coinbase.app. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce to y'all my esteemed guests, founders of FunderFox, Tareq and Sharoz. What's up, fellas?
What's going on, Hotep? What's popping?
How you doing, Hotep?
Life is good. Life is good. What do you make of that story? This whole CBDC thing. Central bankers coming with their own bank digital currencies. What are some of the first notions that come to mind? You know, what are the first things that pop in your head when you heard that?
I mean, I think there's, you know, they're trying to counter cryptocurrencies in general, because if the cryptocurrency is backed by cash, I don't even know what that means. It's just cash.
It kills the point.
Okay, I thought I was the only one tripping. All right, that makes sense. First of all, I want to say thank you. You guys helped me put together some agreements for some of the startups I work with. For anybody who's not familiar, these are the official attorneys I work with to put together my agreements to secure my equity stakes in the companies that I'm involved with. We're working on a deal right now that should be closing within the next week or so. Can't wait to make that announcement. Very, very awesome app. I think a lot of influential, affluent, and busy people, if you're busy, you're going to love this. It's going to boost your productivity. So I can't wait to make that announcement. So, Sharoz and Tareq, what what kind of operation or firm are you running there? Tell us about, how you guys created this. And I'm talking about FunderFox shit. I'm talking about, yourself as attorneys. Give me a walkthrough of your education, so on and so
Yeah,
forth.
absolutely. So just a little background on us. I'm Shiroz. I started as a musician. So I was in the rap game, worked with guys like Joe Budden, Dipset, all these people. Then I got more familiar with the business side of the music game. So I decided to go to law school because I was like, I don't think there's enough paper in this industry for me, right? I don't think there's enough paper in there, or if there is, there's just too many people fighting over the small opportunities that are there to get it. So I went to law school. I worked at, I specialized in entertainment law. I worked entertainment and corporate law. I worked at Warner Brothers in-house, Warner Brothers Records, I had like some of my clients were like OVO, just Drake's label. So I started with that. And then I decided, then a bunch of artists started coming to me like, hey, can you represent me? Can you help me with this? I got this contract. Should I sign this deal, that deal? So I just became kind of like the go-to guy because with entertainment law, the big thing is, unless you're at a big law firm, there's a couple of like boutique firms that'll do some entertainment law. And a lot of times they specialize in like acting or, for like TVs and movies and stuff. And not many of them specialize in music. So I'm very specialized in music because I was actually drafting all the contracts for all these big artists, doing all their like album extensions, sitting in on the negotiations for everything. So I got into it that around that time I met Tareq around that time. We decided to kind of, we were on the same mode of like, we're not typical attorneys, right? Like we went to law school, but the mindset wasn't like, I'm gonna be sitting here practicing law till I'm like 50. The goal was, let me get some valuable skills, some good skills and like things that could get me in the door and lead me to other opportunities. So he had the same mindset. So we ended up linking up and we decided to create a law firm together. So he's been kind of like a mentor for me as well. So we linked up, we're connected through a mutual friend. And he's been practicing law a lot longer than I have, but he kind of helped me show me the ropes on things. And obviously I know specialized areas of law that he hasn't practiced. So it was just kind of like a merge there. So we came in with the mindset, we're going to make a law firm and we're going to run it like a business. We're not going to run it like a typical attorney. We're going to try to use technology, try to automate as much as we can and try to, because the legal industry and sometimes like real estate are some of the industries that they don't adapt with technology. Right. They're stuck in the Stone Age. So they take forever to adapt. And so we came with the mindset, all right, how are we going to run this like a business? How are we going to implement technology and do things that we want to do? And then eventually, the goal is to have our law firm just kind of running, we'll hire, as we expand, we'll hire people and then, we can focus on some of the other ventures that we have going on. Yeah. So,
Tareq, you got couple of grays in the beard there, which means you've been around the block a few times. So what's your history with this law thing? You a rapper too?
No, I'm not. No. But you were introduced as young lawyers, and I was like, man, I wish. But like, I've been practicing law for like 13 years. I started off my practice in the city. I was working at a firm that did large scale litigation, and I also worked a lot in international trade. Both those areas really taught me that most of this stuff is just a big, huge waste of time and a waste of resources. I mean, for example, I worked on the 9/11 litigation, which is the civil litigation that's associated with 9/11. And just to imagine the scope of this case, the damages were $3 trillion, right? They were suing the amount of people that were involved in that lawsuit, the amount of lawyers alone. Like we would go to just a conference with the court and just lawyers and judges, which is usually just like 2 lawyers and a judge, right? This would be like an entire courtroom packed with lawyers, right? Just for like procedural stuff. So it was like a massive pooling of resources, a waste of time. This lawsuit involved the royalty of Saudi Arabia. It went all the way to the Supreme Court. It involved Barack Obama when he was first inaugurated. It was like an insane like lawsuit. And I was just like, we did all this like for what? Like, what is these resources going towards? Like, this is going towards nothing. This is just complete BS.
Why do you feel it was going towards nothing?
What's the outcome? There's a big civil lawsuit on 9/11. There's $3 trillion in damages. Who's collecting those damages and like who's paying those damages? Like, there's not going to be an outcome, right? It was more, I guess, political, but it's a lot of lawyers making a lot of money, but there was nothing actually happening. So to me, this lawsuit was just you know that I mean, this litigation in general is just like a waste of resources and a waste of time.
What about
And
the families of the families of the victims? No, they weren't part of that $3 trillion payout.
the families, the families were involved, the property damage plaintiffs, the airlines, all those people. The question is, the defendants were not like, who are you suing? Like, who's the defendants that's paying, right? So for example, the first defendant that's named is Al-Qaeda Army, right? And I'm like, okay, like they're not gonna appear. Like it's gonna be a default, okay? And then you can go and collect it. From who? You know, they sued at that time, they had sued Iraq, right?
Okay.
And then which then came under US control very quickly. So the United States was quick to defend Iraq in a lawsuit. You had the suit against the king of Saudi Arabia at that time. Several individuals that were from Saudi Arabia. A lot of banks, a lot of any sort of Saudi-based NGO or nonprofit was involved in the lawsuit. Like these people were not involved in 9/11, right? It was so there's this like very like, you know, it was like it was like a conspiracy that all these people somehow worked together and this led to 9/11 happening. It's a very like vague sort of case. And then this case just goes on, like it just drags, right? It doesn't end. It's not like there's a payout. Who's going to pay and why? $3 trillion, like this is like a made up number. You know, there's not $3 trillion out there, right?
Yeah. So you're obviously of, I can assume, Islamic faith, right?
Yeah.
What's that like during 9/11? And you have this attorney of Islamic faith, you know, like they, you know, what's that like? Because obviously back then they think everybody's a terrorist that's Islamic. Like that was a huge stereotype. Did you face any of that?
Yeah, plenty. Like our clients were a Saudi-based NGO, and you know, whenever they were sending us documents or things that we requested, the mail was being intercepted and opened. So before it got to us, this is the reason why I had to fly. I had to fly to meet the clients there and talk in person because like a lot of that stuff's going on. They froze assets for our clients, so they couldn't pay us. Even though they had the money, but they couldn't pay because they froze assets from Saudi Arabia. It was a lot of that stuff was going on at that time.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm sure you could write a book about all that.
Just that lawsuit alone, yeah. I mean, that's still going. I only worked on it for like 3 years in the middle, and then I was doing a lot of international trade work. That was a lot of BS.
International trade work. What's that mean?
Like basically people investing in a foreign country, and so they have to go through the regs of the foreign country, and there's a lot of international agreements that get involved there. There's bilateral treaties, there's international or like the World Trade Organization, all those things. So you know, that was also a lot of BS. And then I came into working in corporate law and securities, and which is like this is the whole experience that kind of led me to like build a firm like this and to kind of understand what's happening, right? Because in law school, it paints a pretty rosy picture about what you're doing, some sort of like a noble cause or whatever it is. But in reality, law schools, the law itself and the law schools along with them are nothing more than just a gatekeeper, right? And this is just a gatekeeper to keep access limited to few people and exclude other people. And there's no real reason for it to exist, you know, other than that. And so for us, the goal of this law firm that we've created now is to sort of break down those barriers and to kind of like make things more accessible, provide more access.
So what do you think is being gatekept? The aspect of law, the world of law, or?
I mean, the legal industry is actually built on creating a barrier. Yeah. So it was actually what happened, and I might be mistaken on this, but you can correct me on this. They actually created the bar, like the state bars, to prevent people from becoming lawyers. When
it's called a bar,
it's literally called a bar because I think there was
never put that together. Oh yeah. Shit!
I think there was, if I'm not mistaken, there's two reasons. One was there was, I believe, a black lawyer who was trying to practice law, and due to some clerical error, he was listed at, like his application or whatever, something went through so he could practice law. And then immigrant lawyers were coming in, I think from Italy and France and other places, right? So they were coming in and they were already lawyers in their countries. So to prevent all these other people from becoming lawyers, it was like, that's what the bar was created for. So
historically, you became a lawyer in the US. You became a lawyer by apprenticing for a lawyer. You work for a lawyer, and then you were a lawyer. That's historically how it was done, which is the most logical thing to do, because law school doesn't teach you much. They always say that we teach you how to think like a lawyer, but that's just BS, right? Really, like when the learning process begins when you get a job, right? So when I started working as a lawyer, that's when I started learning most of the stuff that I know now. Right. It's not like I look up or let me go back to my law school textbooks. This is just like we're reading like, maybe like 90 cases from the 1800s on like we read some British feudal cases and stuff like that. And because they got to teach you something, right?
Yeah.
So they come up with these really old, cases and like this kind of stuff and just discuss like these theories just to be like, we're academics and we're intelligent and we know this stuff.
Well, this bar that's being held up in front of people, preventing them from becoming lawyers. Is there anything about that that's unconstitutional, or do you just find it's just probably ethically wrong?
so I think you have to look at like where the laws even originate from, right? So like I remember my first year of law school, I'm sitting in I'm in a constitutional law class being taught by someone who's an attorney for the NAACP, and she's like highly esteemed attorney and all this and that, right? I remember the first case we went over. We went over like 2 or 3 cases, and I just asked a question. I'm like, well, it doesn't seem like they're following any rules. It just seems like they have a conclusion in mind on the Supreme Court cases, and they're just reverse engineering whatever answer they want. Yep. So they're just creating logic for whatever answer they want. And then additionally, like a lot of these laws just come from like, all right, well, we're some white guys in Europe saying, right? What did they say? They decided this is right. Okay, so now that's just going to carry over and create the basis for all the law in the US. And so for me, at that point, when I was sitting in that class, I looked around, everybody else is focused. I'm like, this is stupid. Like that was my thing. I was like, this is stupid. Like, this is like literally you're making up whatever you want. And then you're just reverse engineering any sort of logic that fits to make that applicable. So I was researching the Sedition Act from the early days. And, we talk about freedom of speech and press. Like you said, they were just pulling like, what did England do? Okay, let's build off of that. Yeah, and then as I'm looking through some of this case law and seeing how the justices are interpreting the Constitution, and it's just like, which begs the question to you, could the Constitution have been written better, or is there always going to be some way to logically circumvent and find some weird interpretation? What you think?
I think the Constitution could have been written better.
Okay.
I think it leaves a lot of room. So from my understanding, this is what I don't know what the founding fathers were thinking. From my understanding, from the stuff that I've read, I think the idea was to preserve liberty for the people, so that civil liberty and personal liberty was like one of the core values. And this idea of the Bill of Rights was basically that, right? Like just to make sure that it's not giving a right, but rather it's saying that the government is not going to impede on these particular rights. But then to go ahead and create a lot of ambiguity as to like what kind of laws Congress can and cannot make, particularly when you talk about the Commerce Clause, for example, right? Dormant or active Commerce Clause, like there's a lot of leeway, right? To the point where like, Congress can make a law on a particular thing just because there's a billboard, because that business advertised on an interstate highway, right? Or whatever kind of thing that you can make to, it gives them a lot of rights to make, or rather a lot of power to make laws in a lot of areas. And then of course the power of taxation, which also.
We don't like taxes.
The good old 16th Amendment.
Yeah,
that thing. Don't get me to cussing. Well, great. I love the background. Like I said before, I enjoy working with you guys. You guys are great. Let's shift gears and let's talk FunderFox, right? What was the motivation behind FunderFox? Well, first tell us what FunderFox is, and then sort of segue into the motivation behind why you felt that you needed to launch this endeavor.
So FunderFox is basically, what we were talking about and how we felt about the law as a barrier. So FunderFox is basically our solution to this in the area of when it comes to business and entrepreneurship. So like other areas that we discussed, business and entrepreneurship has been heavily regulated, particularly when it comes to raising capital and investment money, right? So,
for example,
so I'll give you an example, right? So every single, whenever you're selling a portion of your company, right? You're selling that portion, that's a security, okay? Every security is regulated by the SEC, okay? It can fall into one of two categories. Either it has to be registered with the SEC, right? Which is a massive, I'm talking about a massive obligation, right? To go through the registration process with the SEC, or it's exempt from registration under one of a few categories that the SEC has cut out, right? It could be exempt under this, or this, which are also require filings, but they're less burdensome than the registration requirement, right? Up until fairly recently, the most commonly used one was what they call Regulation D, right? Reg D allows basically you to raise any amount of capital. It was unlimited. It preempted state law. It was this, but it could only have accredited investors, right? Now, accredited investors, just to make people familiar, just basically wealthy people, right? It's people who have 200K in income over a certain amount of time, people with $1 million in net worth, or like some institutionals, right? Banks, insurance companies, things like that. Yeah. That's accredited investors. So basically, this thing has unlimited capital you can raise, but it's only accredited investors can invest in it, right? Just to give you just to weigh it out, the amount of capital raised under Regulation D just last year, right, is $1.8 trillion. $1.8 trillion was raised last year under Reg D.
And that's right? Under the pandemic.
Yes. So what's happening here? There's a lot of stuff happening here that are only these accredited investors are privy to, right? And even then, mostly on the institutional side. And what are they investing in? Large hedge funds, large private equity funds, a lot of tech startups, a lot of companies like that, right? So these people are and clearly so much money is flowing in because they can benefit from that, right? So they're benefiting significantly, right? Unaccredited investors, so if you're not an accredited investor, like majority of Americans, like the 99%, right? Okay. Your investment options, what are they? You can buy stocks on like Robinhood, right? You can maybe invest in a mutual fund through like your bank account or whatever and get like your small returns.
Bonds,
yeah. Right? And the last one, and I don't want to leave this out because this is a reality, lottery, right? State lottery. What's the revenue on state lottery?
Okay, so check this out. For New York, $9.74 billion in lottery sales.
That's 2020. That's 1 year.
For 2020, for New York alone.
New York alone, $9.7 billion. And where is this money coming from? It's coming from the bottom 1%, right?
Yeah.
This is coming from the poorest people. So they've literally squeezed $9.7 billion out of the poorest people, right? But those people, they say, look, so basically what the SEC is saying, and this is exactly what they're saying. They're saying that you unaccredited investors, you guys are too stupid to make a decision on risk, right? You guys don't know how to calculate because you guys are too stupid. And so like we're gonna come in and stop you because we're like the father figure, right? We're gonna come in and stop you from making any stupid mistakes with these highly risky tech investments or hedge funds, right? And the lottery ticket is like, go right ahead.
Yeah, you're not too dumb for that. You're not too dumb for the lottery tickets.
You want to buy the whole paycheck on lottery tickets? No limit, no restriction, no nothing. Go right ahead.
Yeah.
So that's the hypocrisy. Like where's the balance here, right? So we're telling people that you can go ahead and buy as many lottery tickets as you want because this is not risky, but this investment in a tech company or a particular hedge fund is way too risky for you to do.
Yeah, and you're too dumb to realize it. So we just gotta cut your legs off so you don't even have a chance to look at it.
Exactly.
That's what they're saying.
You don't have a shot. And this is where $1.8 trillion is going. So that means this thing is making money. Like it wouldn't be raising $1.8 trillion if it wasn't profitable.
Yeah.
So what does it take to become an accredited investor?
You got to have 200K in income
in yearly income.
Yearly income for 2 consecutive years. At least, or have $1 million in net worth.
Or $1 million in net worth.
Yeah. Which most Americans are not. They're not hitting.
You tell me how many percent of Americans fit into that.
So basically what you're saying is only the affluent have access to become super affluent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The reason why the rich get richer is because the poor have the access completely cut off.
Let me
And the access is cut off in the name of protecting the poor, or rather the unaccredited.
And let me just throw in one stat here about unaccredited investors, right? So unaccredited investors made up a total of 9% of Regulation D offerings. So that means, the rest of it was all just the accredited investors. So people don't even have a shot at this. That's how small the percentage is of people that have a shot at this.
Break that down for me and tell me what that means, that 9% number. What does that mean?
That means of the $1.8 trillion that went into Reg D. So Reg D, basically, like there's two versions of Reg D. One of it is raising unlimited amounts of money. This is where most hedge funds live. That one is only for accredited investors. Unaccredited can't even touch it. There's another one where it limits how much you can raise. I think the cap is like 10 million or something like that.
Yeah.
And this one allows you to have 35 unaccredited. Okay.
Right. Individual investors.
Yeah, right. Unaccredited. So, but it's capped at 35, and even then, it has even more restrictions on how you solicit and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So he's saying that of the 1.8 trillion, 9% of that unaccredited were able to invest. But again, they were investing not in the big pool; they were investing in the smaller pool.
Yeah, they don't even have access to the big pool. So
right. Wow, that's amazing. Shout out to the people in the chat. Shout out to Hotep, Dutch, Ebony, people tuning in right now. This is Big Money Talk. Stop grifting, hit the super chats. If you got a question, hit the super chats. Drop that question in the super chats. For the rest of you grifters, hit the like button at the very least. The like button is free. Subscribing is free. Make sure you hit those buttons. That helps boost the algorithm. That helps a Hotep out. All right, so the SEC, what is this? The Security Exchange Confederation. What is that?
Commission.
Did I get that right?
Commission.
Okay. What is this body made of? Who are these people? This is government? Is this private interest? What is this?
No, it's a federal agency.
A federal agency. Okay. And the individuals that make this up, is there any musical chairs being played here between the private and government sector?
As always.
I always seem to see that.
Yeah.
For example, I'm doing a lot of study now, so I'm trying to sift through what I saw. IG Farben. IG Farben was a chemical company.
Yes.
And then there was a commission in America that was supposed to oversee some of the dealings, and people left that company and came to the...
Yeah, the heads of the FDA are regularly pharma executives. Regularly.
That's crazy. So why do you think they do that? Do you want to speculate? Big money? Is it probably secure the investments for their cronies?
Yeah, I mean, it's all big. It's like anything else in government, right? It's like it's okay. We're collecting the taxpayer money, right?
Yeah.
We got a budget for building whatever, building bridges, whatever, right? Who's getting hired? Who's getting contracted to? Right? What's the company that's getting contracted with? Some politician's brother-in-law or something, Do we know where all that money is accounted for and going? I mean, that's just, it's corrupt from top to bottom.
Like clearly, like FDA drugs are getting approved, and then the head of the FDA will then leave that position and get a position with that company they just approved, right?
Yeah.
That's like a regular routine thing. The idea is that this is the whole problem with this whole system. Whether you have Republicans or Democrats, the people in power are only using that power to benefit themselves and their cronies. And this is meant to exclude people, and it's meant to keep the power within the few that are at the top, right? And then the law is just a tool they use to kick that ladder down, the one that they climbed up.
So go ahead.
If you read, there's a short story by Franz Kafka, where it's called Before the Law. I don't know if you've read it. It's a short story. Basically, the idea is that like this guy wakes up one day and he decides that he wants to go to the law, and he like gets ready and goes out, and he goes to this building where the law is kept. And in front of the building is like a gatekeeper. And then he asked the gatekeeper, let him in, he won't let him in. This whole time goes by, the guy said he won't let him pass. And then basically the guy just sits there and waits for an opportunity. He never gets it. And then eventually he gets old and sick. And then as he's about to die, the gatekeeper is like, even if you got past me, there's even bigger gatekeepers inside. And the whole point that Kafka is trying to paint, obviously a better story than my summary, but the whole point that Kafka is trying to paint is that the law is never accessible to the people. It's just not.
What's the name of this book?
It's a short story. It's called Before the Law.
Before the Law. Say no more. I will be devouring that shortly. No, wonderful. So when I think about some of these problems, for example, I think about Bitcoin and I think about how powers that be have started to regulate a lot of parts of that industry. So I say to myself, we need some sort of attorney body to start to repeal laws. Is there anything people can do? For example, you're talking about the bar. You talked about the whole accredited investor thing. Is there anything that the people can do, maybe form some sort of people's committee of people who understand law to start to lobby and fight and repeal some of this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, that's always a possibility. And like, I don't know what goes into getting a law repealed. But the lobby efforts, so like the whole point of
Rose just laughed. He was like,
well, I'm laughing because the idea of getting a law repealed is like, it just seems almost like insurmountable.
But I will say this. So like, and this is the whole reason why we're talking about FunderFox and we're talking about it now, because something's happening right now, right? Because although the registration requirements under Reg D and Reg A and some of these are pretty hefty for most people to meet and for unaccredited investing, they have scaled back the law somewhat and created a window, and which is what FunderFox is here for, right? So the FunderFox is created for that. There's a window made in the law, and we can find a way to use this to our advantage. And I think this is the time to act in, which is why this company is existing.
What's this window?
So the window is this. It was actually carved in, and I'll give you a little bit short history. Like it was actually put into effect. It was signed into law in 2012 by Barack Obama. It was under what they call the Jobs Act. And one of the things the Jobs Act did was create regulation crowdfunding. So you have Reg D and Reg A. They created something called Reg CF, which is regulation crowdfunding. Basically, what this means is crowdfunding was a thing that we saw in the form of donations and rewards, like you saw GoFundMe or Kickstarter. These are donation-based or reward-based, right? The 2012 Jobs Act created a crowdfunding for equity. So basically, I can sell a piece of my company and crowdfund that on a portal, and people can raise capital for it. Obama signed it in 2012. The SEC did not put it into effect. They refused to put the rules. So the law is passed, but the SEC has to put rules in order for it to go into effect. They didn't do that for what, 4 years?
That was 3 years.
3 years. So for 3 years, this law that Obama signed did nothing, right? It just sat there. And then 3 years later, the SEC finally put rules to put into effect. So like, it came out, it was kind of restricted. It was like, you can raise $1 million in a 12-month period. You could raise $1 million. It had to be on a registered funding portal that's registered with the SEC. And but what it did was it allows anybody to invest in it, accredited or unaccredited, right? And the unaccredited investors had a cap where they can only invest up to 10% of their net worth. So if your net worth is like, $50,000, you can only invest $500. So that came into effect. That was in effect from 2015 to now, and it raised about, I think in total in its whole life, which is like about 5-6 years, it's raised about $500 million.
So in 2020, it was 215 mil.
Yeah. So last year it raised $215 million, right? As opposed to Reg D's $1.8 trillion.
And that's specifically equity crowdfunding, not including like GoFundMe or whatever, any of those things.
Equity crowdfunding, right?
Yeah.
So this window, so it exists and it's not really becoming big because there's still not a lot of education around this. And there's not a lot of methods on how to use it. So the law and the thing by itself is not enough. We have to add more to show how this can empower entire communities. It could be a game changer if it's utilized properly, and which is what FunderFox is trying to do. So one of the reasons why we're doing FunderFox now and not like 5 years ago is because now, literally today, the new laws go into effect, which raises that $1 million cap to a $5 million cap. So now you can crowdfund and raise $5 million. There's a couple other things that are beneficial in the new law. So there is a window, right, within the law that was created. Now,
who do we thank for that $5 million raise? Trump.
It was the SEC. It went into effect in November. Like the SEC approved it in November.
Okay.
Of 2020.
Gotcha.
So I don't know.
So it's just like an SEC decision. They decided to raise that. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if this is something that happens. I don't know the back, how the government works together. I don't know if it was something that they were waiting for the election outcome and then put it forward, or if it was something that was already in the works.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why they would arbitrarily just raise that out of nowhere. I'm just wondering. But go ahead.
Well, the thing was that nobody was using the crowdfunding regulation because it was too. Like if the 1 million is the cap, then you're gonna get companies that are raising less than that, and which usually means that you're not gonna get a lot of good quality companies. And so the quality of the deal flow is bad, then nobody's really gonna invest in it. And raising it to 5 million, maybe the idea is that more people will use this.
I got you. Makes sense.
So this is the window that's created, right? But the law by itself is not enough. I think we need to have a lot of education on this and how this is a game changer. And I don't think people realize that.
So how do you fit into this with FunderFox? So
first of all, the idea is that you can only crowdfund on an SEC approved portal, right? There's a couple of big ones out there right now. WeFunder, Start Engine, Seed Invest, but none of them are a total package, as we think.
Okay.
Right? So the first thing that FunderFox is doing is it's setting up. We are doing the SEC registration as we speak. Yeah. So later in 2021, once it should be approved and ready to launch. So we'll have the crowdfunding portal. So companies can use this portal to crowdfund, to equity crowdfund and raise capital, right? But like I said, the portal by itself is not enough.
Right.
There has to be another piece to it. One is a lot of companies out there, a lot of entrepreneurs out there don't know that they can do this. And when they realize they can do this, they sometimes lack the ability to put together a company that's going to be structured properly to do this effectively. So there has to be a lot of consulting, coaching, training to get mentoring, education to get the entrepreneurs from here to here, right? And then we have to inform the investors that, look, you can invest instead of investing on lottery tickets. You can actually invest in your people in your neighborhood who are starting businesses, right? So there's nothing that says that these startups have to be, tech startups, although that's where a lot of the tech startups would go for seed funding, which is also good. And then you can also have people who are just, you're opening up a corner store or a restaurant in your neighborhood, and then you can crowdfund from all the people in your neighborhood, so they all have a piece of this, and it can empower. So the people can empower each other. If they can squeeze $9 billion out of the poor, just think about it. If everybody puts their asset, if everybody pulls everything together through crowdfunding, they can actually empower each other.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Ebony, thank you. Darlene D. Lisa, $5 super chat. She said one of the most important discussions of the week. If you're not tuned in, you are missing out. Big facts, big truth. Halima, thank you. $50. Appreciate you, love. She said priceless event here. Thank you. Question for FunderFox. For accredited investors, does bankruptcy history have any impact on the investor? Also, can one be accredited as an individual or company?
So if you want to be accredited as there's two types of accredited. I mean, there's several categories, but as an individual, you have to meet that requirement where you individually have an income of $200,000 or you have $1 million net worth as an individual. If you want to be accredited as a company, your company has to meet the credit requirements. So in order for a company to be accredited, it has higher requirements. I don't have them off the top of my head, but like, for example, for a trust or a nonprofit to be accredited, they have to have $5 million in assets. If you want to be investment banks, and banks are usually investment companies, and banks are usually accredited investors. So if your company meets those requirements, then it would be accredited. But,
Interesting. Does bankruptcy history have any impact on the investor?
Bankruptcy history by itself won't, as long as you meet the $200,000 income requirement
for the two consecutive
years.
Right. Gotcha.
So the question is, will people that have a bankruptcy in their record have that? If they do, then they'll be fine.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. So when I think of the topic tonight, like raising capital, how is it that you guys are going to help people raise capital, or what is it? Is there education that people need to understand about? Is it they need to work on their pitch? Do they need to be connected to more investors?
So it's a whole process, right? So one thing we realized early on, just working as attorneys, is how, because we've been fortunate that we've started a couple different businesses and we've been lawyers. So we understand kind of the legal side of it and kind of like how to run a business. And you learn a lot of things along the way, right? You learn how to do your accounting, you learn how to set up the corporate structure. You learn, obviously you get into new networks. So you learn how to pitch, you might not know how to like create a pitch deck. You might not know how to talk to investors or where to go find them. So our thing is, FunderFox is, you could think of it in two parts, right? One part, which is active right now, is kind of like the consulting side, which we also coach and mentor and educate people on, how do you start from point A in starting a business? What does that take, right? So how do you go from an idea to actually creating a functioning company, right? And then how do you manage your books? What type of company do you create? What type of, compliance is needed to make sure your company is, complying every single year with your state, right? So we teach, part of the thing is we're going to be, doing classes on that. We're going to be putting out some more content, just educating people on the general, process, right? How do you get to that point? And then once you have a functioning business, okay, now how do you take it to the next level? How do you go out there and access that capital, right? And that's where part two of FunderFox is going to come in, which is the crowdfunding portal, right? So it'll give companies that are approved the opportunity to get on our portal. They'll get a link, and then they can go and market that link. And other things that we're going to include with FunderFox, which other portals don't really do or platforms don't really do, is we're going to include legal services in-house at a discounted rate, right? So it's going to be cheaper than going to a law firm or anything like that, because even to crowdfund, there's a forms you have to file, and there's a lot of regulations that you have to comply with in order to be able to go out there and collect cash, right? Yeah. That's one. The second thing is, one of our other partners, he's heavily involved in digital marketing. That's what his background is. So we're actually going to be providing marketing in-house. So digital marketing. So understanding, SEO, understanding how to kind of get your product out, get your company out there, right? So we're gonna have kind of a one-stop shop. So you could come in from the start. Maybe you're not ready to actually crowdfund yet, but you might come in, okay, I don't know, I have this great idea. I don't even know how to start the business. So we might walk you through that, right? We get you, now you have an operating business. And then now we tell you, okay, if you do this, this, and this, you might actually be ready to crowdfund. Then, you try to get listed on our crowdfunding portal. And then once you're on the crowdfunding portal, you have a link to your company, right? And now we're helping you market that, right? So we want to take you from A to Z, right? So we want to have, and so that way we can help out people that, they might not crowdfund. Maybe there's just someone who just needs to start up a business and they might just, generate a little bit of revenue and they're happy with that. That's fine, right? So we can help people from that point. And then there's people that are going to be trying to get a lot bigger. So, might have a tech startup or some sort of whatever company. And, we take them, we get them set up, or they're already have their business running. And then now we just help them go out and get that capital and then market it and kind of stay compliant with everything. So, yeah.
Tareq, did you want something to add? I wasn't sure.
Like, the only thing I would add is that, like, the education portion, we talked about providing education and consultation to entrepreneurs. And like, one of the things about that area is that right now on the internet, there's a lot of that stuff going around, but like all of it, I think it's like 90% of it is like fluff.
Oh, wow.
Everybody's like, entrepreneur coach and like this and that. And there's just
a whole lot of grifters out
here. Yes, it is.
And like the whole thing is that we're trying to just cut the crap and be like, you need to do this, this, and this, and we show you how to do it, right? We're not trying to win the grifties, right?
We're not trying to win the grifties. Go nominate us.
Grifties.com. Make sure y'all go nominate FunderFox. I got a couple of questions here in regards to raising capital. What would you recommend a company do for their pitch deck? And just to give you a background on what I heard was effective was very slim, 5 to 6 slides, super simple, high level stuff. You want to expound from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, most people that are investing now are not going to read an entire business plan, which, people have it, and that's good for them to have and stick to their business plan, but most people aren't going to read it. You want to have a pitch deck. You want to make it slim and get right to the point. I think you want to be able to convey what is it that what problem is your company solving for? So the problem is clear, and then your solution is clear. And I think you should be able to understand what your market is, what market are you in, and how do you define that market, and who are your competitors in that market, and then what gives you the competitive edge. Like, why, if this is your market, why should we go with you, right? And then
uniqueness, yeah.
And I think the most important slide ends up usually being, who's your team? Like, I see this, I get this, who are you, right? Why? Because like when you're investing in, if you're talking about startup, particularly tech startups, like you're investing in the founder. Like that's who you're down to, that's who you're really investing in. So like, do I believe this idea would work? I might, but do I believe you can pull off this idea? That's the real question I'm asking. Right?
So what are some details that individuals should put in their slide deck about themselves? Should they say like, hey, I built, such and such startup years ago or whatever? What is it? I have a 700 credit score, or
I think I think information about you that would help build confidence in your skills and abilities, but that helps in the pitch deck. I think the team, like who's your team, like who's helping you, and what is their skill set. I think that helps. But then it comes down to it. I mean, eventually you're gonna have to, go face to face, and I got to talk to you, and I got to feel like I believe in you, like, because like the world of startups and entrepreneurship is tough. I've been down that road, right? It's a tough one. It's a gritty one, right? Do I feel like you're gonna get through that gritty part, or do I feel like you'll give up? And like, you need to really convince me that like you're not gonna quit on me. I think that's the main thing. So in the pitch tag, you can actually put down who's your team, what experiences you have that contributes, and who's your team and what skill set they have. But then ultimately it comes down to it. You have to convince the investor of that you're willing to go the whole way with this thing.
In an actual meeting.
Yeah.
What about traction, market traction? Right. Some, what are investors? Because from what I've been hearing and what I've been seeing is they're pretty much not going to touch anything that doesn't even have revenue yet. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean, look, if it depends. So like, things are going the other way as well, right? So yes, some investors are going to be like, show me like a revenue, from last year or from this year or whatever. I'm also seeing that a lot of companies, a lot of investors are trying to go even earlier, right? So they're trying to get people early stage, and they're even trying to get people in like a very early stage, right? Because they're trying to capitalize off of ideas and people. So like, you got a good founder with a decent idea, you come in really early, you're going to get a much bigger chunk of that equity for a much cheaper price. And so they're trying to capture people at that point, right? So this is obviously way pre-revenue. And I'm seeing a lot of the bigger investors are doing that as well. Some of the ones that can afford to wait, some of them that can afford to wait the 3 years, 5 years before revenue starts coming in. You can see them go down early. A lot of them will wait till revenue comes in and then come in on the late stage.
But usually they don't get a good deal that way, or a better deal, I should say.
Like the deal is going to be, the thing is that you'll get more of a sure deal, right?
Right.
It's like the whole thing about tech startups is that like, it is a risk, right? It's a huge risk, right? So what you'll do if you're like a real investor, you might want to spread out into a couple of different tech companies at the same time. So you'll have like your class, here's like 5 or 10 that I'm investing in. And then 9 of these are going to fail. And like one of them is going to make it. But the one that makes it might cover the losses of all of them.
Right.
That's the idea. It's sort of like you spread it out. If you're investing in a late stage, when revenue's coming in, things are better, you're getting more of a short shot.
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting a more established company, you're getting revenue. So of course it's going to cost you more, but at least the risk is mitigated.
Yeah. Yeah. We've, one of my companies has, we're pre-revenue at this point. Right. But revenue's weeks away, and talking big revenue too. And the investors are circling. They're circling like sharks around us, and they want to get in pre-revenue.
Yep.
And I'm trying to hold them off, like, nah.
Yeah. On your end, that's a smart move, because you're gonna wait. You're gonna get a much better valuation once you have revenue.
Correct. So that's the battle right now, is getting that better evaluation. So help me like think about this thing, right? Like, one, how do you value a company post revenue, right? Like, we got revenue come in. I can give you exact figures if you need to, but how would you value our company post revenue? What model would you choose? It's an AI company. We have hardware and software, comes as a bundle. We license the software out based upon yearly contracts. The device itself is anywhere from 5 to 10K, and the contract could be up to 100,000, depending on how many locations you have.
Yeah.
Usually like 10K per location, and obviously the price scales down the more locations we have.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a specialist on valuations, but usually you get a multiplier on revenue based on.
Okay, you'd go with the multiplier model. Okay.
That's the model that I've seen most commonly used in deals that I'm involved in. So you go with the multiplier, usually industry based. So some industries will get a lower multiplier. Others, I think tech and like AI space will probably get a higher multiplier. And if you post revenue, then it's probably going to go off that multiplier model, unless you own some really valuable IP, and then you factor that in as well.
Yeah.
If you own the patent, then you got to factor that in as well.
Right.
It's a little bit tough to evaluate the IP, but it definitely factors is higher.
Yeah. So help me think through this a little bit more here. Some of the advantages of holding off the investors. What are they thinking about pre-revenue, and what should we be thinking about pre-revenue as we move towards revenue and we have the investors circling? What are some things we could be thinking about, or structuring this deal, maybe, so to speak?
I think if you're pre-revenue, but you know the revenue is on the horizon, that is kind of close. Obviously the smarter move would be to wait till the revenue starts kicking in and see how you do. But time may not be on your side if the market you're in is sensitive to how quickly you rush this to market, right? So like, if your company or your market is such that the first to market or the first to have a lot of users is going to have a benefit, but you can't bootstrap your way all the way there. Even you have some revenue, but like you can't get there for like another year or 2 years, and this capital will help you get there faster. That's a factor that might play in.
Right.
That just depends on if you're like, so like if you have an idea that's not very protectable IP wise, like you don't own a patent, but you have an idea and you put something together that other people could also potentially put together. But if you rush this to market and you can get more users, you're the first to market, you're going to have a significant advantage.
We're like 6/10 to the market. We just happen to do things a little bit different that brings uniqueness to the market, and we're able to undercut the competition.
So if the rush to market is not really a factor, then you might want to wait to see what the revenue brings and what it does to your valuation.
Yeah. I really feel like we should wait until we get the rev so that we can get because right now, if we were do a valuation pre-rev, this is like guesswork, right? You're just pulling a number out of your butt, right? But if we get some revenue, we can do the multiplier, have a real evaluation, and now we're talking to investors with real numbers. Am I correct in saying that?
But you could also do the convertible.
Convertible note, yeah. Loan and then equity. Can you explain that to the people? I know a lot of people watching might not understand that jargon.
Yeah, convertible note is a commonly used thing in tech investment and tech startups, because tech companies early on have a lot of trouble coming up with a valuation. There's no real way of doing it when you're pre-money. What they'll do is they'll do a convertible note, and basically the investor is lending the money on a loan, but then that loan can convert to equity at some point, and they can define what point that is, or it's the option of the investor, or it's a certain convertible event that happens. And that the loan turns to equity, and then now the investor owns equity at a valuation that they determine at a later time.
Based upon a percentage?
Yeah, I'll be like, so like, for example, right now we have no valuation, and you want to lend me $500,000. So I have a $500K note, and then I have no valuation right now. And then a year later you convert, but because we now have a valuation, right? And the benefit of getting in on a convertible note is that we might give you some benefit. We might say that you get a coupon. So like, let's say the valuation comes out to be 10 million, right? And then now your equity is worth like 5%. We might say that, we'll give you a discount. So if a $10 million valuation, we'll give you a 20% discount on the valuation. And then your equity converts at that 20% discount, whatever that amount ends up being.
Right.
So that's the kind of the thing that you use a note for.
How does that differ from the Y Combinator agreement? Are you familiar with the Y Combinator agreement? What's that?
I know I'm familiar with the Y Combinator. The agreement. Which agreement are you talking about?
Yeah, they basically created something similar to a convertible note, which operates just basically off of a discount. basically says, hey, you can lend this money or invest now. And in the future, at a future evaluation, you just get a basic discount. It's not a convertible note, but it operates similarly. I was just wondering if you checked out the contract. It's a really simple contract. It's like only like 3 pages or something like that.
Yeah. It's basically like a deferred equity. You're still investing in equity. It never becomes a note, and then it just the percentage is determined later on a coupon.
Right.
It's basically a convertible note without the note. It's just equity that's deferred.
Right. What kind of deals would you recommend for people who go through FunderFox, or would it be on a case-by-case basis? When I think about FunderFox and I think people signing up, I think that everybody probably goes through one basic model to make things simple, or is it customized each deal?
No, I think that there's a wide variety of different types of things that we can put on FunderFox. So like it can be, you can raise for a real estate transaction, right? So you're buying into a particular real estate asset. You pull the assets from the crowdfunding, people get in, and then there's an option later on. There's an exit strategy on real estate, whether you're going to sell the property or you're going to refi and exit the investors, something like that, and that would be great on crowdfunder and FunderFox, sorry. And the real estate has like a very clear sort of thing, right? Like people understand that a little bit better. Here's like a physical building. I know what I'm getting. I'm getting a percentage of this building, and I know the exit strategy. The building is going to sell or it's going to refi. So it's a very clear sort of clear-cut thing. It's a little bit less risky. So you can have something like that, and then you can have something like a tech startup that's raising, right? And it could be like early stage tech, and they're raising a certain amount. And then you can also have things that are more local, right? So like a person is like, I'm going to open up a retail, whatever, store, or
retail
like
store or restaurant or something.
Here's my model, and here's the returns and all that kind of stuff. And so people from that community and for that neighborhood are likely to invest in that, because like a lot of the FunderFox stuff, like the marketing is going to be, although many investors might look at your thing, more than likely it's going to be how you market yourself. So like if your idea is that I want to open a store here and I want my community to invest in it, then you market that out to your community, and then everybody pulls their assets together. So I think you can see all types of things.
Yeah. So when we think about raising money, of course, we got to talk about how much, right? So is there a number that people should say they should be asking for, or are we going based upon needs, right? Like I'm looking at my sheet and I'm saying, here's what I need, and I'm going to do that times 2 or whatever, right? Or is it like, you better not be asking for anything less than $1 million because nobody's going to take you serious? How does that all work? Because I might only need $20,000 right now, right?
I think you want to crowdfund for anywhere between, because there are some costs to crowdfunding, you want to be able to raise at least 50K. And then it can go all the way, with the new laws, you can go all the way up to 5 million. So anything between that is cool. And I think a lot of early stage companies are not going to need $1 million. They may only need like 500,000. They may only need something in that ballpark. And others will, but you should always raise what you need, because you don't want to be giving up more equity than you need to, just to have more capital that you don't necessarily need at that moment. You want to take as much as you need, and then allow your company to grow.
What should people be looking for in an investor? I know a lot of times, at least for me, when I look for an investor, for example, we have one investor interested, one of the sharks floating around, and he can actually get sales and bring revenue for the company. So that's what I look for, right? Can my investor be dual purpose and help me break into the market?
Yeah. That's a question you have to ask. Do you want smart money or you want dumb money? And that's the terms. Sometimes you kind of want the dumb money. You know exactly what you're doing, and it's a particularly niche thing, and you know what you're doing, and you know how to like capitalize off of it. And you just need the money to like kind of make it go. Other times, I think in most tech companies, especially when you're offering software as a service, you might want smart money. So you want people who are going to invest, but they're also going to add value in the business development side. Absolutely. Or they can be advisory, or they have some sort of skill set that benefits your company. What
kind of investments are investors looking for today? Because when I'm thinking about myself as an investor, I ain't touching anything brick and mortar. I'll tell you that right now. I'm not touching restaurants, especially not restaurants. I mean, what's the profit margin on those things, right? And then what's that?
Failure rates are high also.
Right. And then the failure rates. Exactly. So I'm not touching anything. I'm going all software with my investment.
But I would argue that, well, given the whole COVID thing, that might change. But
yeah, because everybody's gonna be excited to go back outside again.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, I think restaurant, like if you do like a one-off restaurant that does something, I think you're gonna see high failure rates. But when you're talking about like franchises, those have done significantly better.
So if you're trying to get in the restaurant business, you probably want a franchise.
Particularly if you're in fast food but also fast casual, right? Those two categories are doing well because you're going to benefit from just the name recognition, the brand recognition. People are going to go into your restaurant, and number two, you're going to benefit from the all the delivery apps. And now there's actually this idea of ghost kitchens, and you're familiar with ghost kitchens, right?
Yeah.
Ghost kitchens can also really help, where you just sort of do the delivery. You don't even have a physical restaurant.
Right.
Have a physical kitchen somewhere.
You just need to rent out the kitchen. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I saw all these like meal prep companies and stuff, especially the fitness ones. There's one, I don't know what brother was using. There's one in New Jersey called Eat Clean, bro. Yeah. And they got really big.
Yeah.
You can see cars driving around with the painted on the side, but they got big during COVID because people were trying to eat healthy also. And so they just had there's a ghost kitchen set up, and they got big off that.
I think that's the only place where in the food industry you'd want to be.
Yeah, I had that ghost kitchen idea about 2-3 years ago for a friend of mine, and I'm like, why don't you just do this digitally, And but he didn't. I don't think he wanted to pay the fee. I don't think he could afford the fee to rent out the kitchen and so on and so forth, because you got to follow those compliances and whatnot, right? You can't just do it out of your home because the communists will come get you. But yeah, so what kind of deals are these investors looking at? What kind of companies are they looking at? I know it's got to be mostly tech. I think tech and health, right?
Tech,
healthcare is big.
Healthcare
tech,
right?
Yeah, and real estate.
And real estate. What kind of real estate deals?
Real estate deals could be. I mean, you could do like a simple they could be like a portfolio of like a bunch of residentials that are acquired distressed assets that are, renovated and either held for income, and then the income just comes, or they're flipped and sold and they're liquidated and you move on to the next one, or like a larger, like a strip mall or something like that. And you're just part of that kind of deal. So real estate deals the real estate deals are always going to be around. Yeah. There's always going to be, because they're so predictable. They're much more like, you know what tangible. You're getting. It's tangible.
It's a tangible thing. So every real estate under any time it's always going to be one of those steady investments that people are always going to be looking to invest in. So real estate is.
And that's a thing that you'll find people in your community involved in. Like you'll find people in your community who are doing real estate, who understand real estate. And those people know it. They run around, they hustle a lot, they find deals, and they lack capital. So like if those people are empowered to then have capital to put into these deals, there's a lot of security for the investor because you're secured in the properties. And also, there's a more predictability. You buy a property, it closes, you renovate it, it finishes, you put it on the market, it sells. There's a closing, everybody gets liquidated. Like it's a very predictable sort of schedule that people can understand and follow.
What if I wanted to do purchase of an apartment complex? I can use FunderFox to raise that money from my cohort to make that happen?
Absolutely. The only limit is that it's a $5 million cap. So you got to it's got to be somewhere where you could get an apartment complex for under $5 million.
Yeah, so basically not in New Jersey.
Not in New Jersey. Not in New York. You go like Texas.
Yeah.
Or like
but you could go to other states and
Michigan or something.
Yeah, you could find like, especially like these Midwestern states,
Ohio. That's where our AI company is based out of. Yeah, you can buy Ohio right now for like $1.
LeBron didn't buy Ohio yet.
I don't know why. And I think about Ohio, I'm just like, you can probably buy the whole state for 1 Bitcoin, right? It's like the real estate's really dirt cheap. Like that. One of my things was, one of my dreams was, I want to just take over Akron one day. Like it's just really a depressed area. There's no entertainment happening there, and it's just like they need a black guy to come in there and just, bring some fun and some life back into that city. And I think that's why LeBron's so praised.
They've got 2 NBA legends from there, right? Is
Who?
Steph Curry from Akron?
Is he?
Well, he was born there, but he's not like
He's born from.
he wasn't like raised there or anything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
he was
okay,
born-
but he was born there. Okay.
He was born in Akron. Yeah.
So they're gonna claim him. They was like, he's born here, that's ours, right?
Yeah, they were playing him during the All-Star.
So there's two MVPs they have.
Yeah.
For-
Yeah. You know, it was so weird. I was out there. That's the first time I saw a black 20-something male cleaning a hotel room.
Wow.
Usually that, you know, I'm used to seeing a Latino female older age doing that type of work. Out there it was like some black kid like Tyrone. And I'm just like, you, this is the job. It's just a whole other world out there, you know? So, you know, when I think about investing, I think it's definitely for the taking.
Yeah.
You guys know much about crypto?
I mean, a little bit. I'm not a big into crypto as other people are, but
Yeah.
a little bit.
Do you think crypto is a form of wealth? This is an argument we were having earlier on Clubhouse with the Coinbits app team. And so I'll give you my argument. I said that Bitcoin was a vehicle to wealth. And for me, I equate wealth to freedom. So wealth would be, I own my land. I own the water on the land. I have a well. I have a solar farm, my chickens, my cows, my farm. Like, I'm completely independent. To me, that's wealth. Also, having firearms and ammo, to me, is a form of wealth because you can protect your assets, right? And plus the rise in price. Do you see Bitcoin as wealth or a vehicle to wealth?
So far, I think it's been a vehicle to wealth. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would say vehicle to wealth, because when you think about, because it's like we were talking about this, like if you actually think about even like the COVID relief packages, right? For example, right? We're talking about how everyone's so concerned about the stimulus money, right? And all this, you're just getting pumped fiat currency, right? But what are the wealthy people doing, right? They're buying up land. So to me, the way I view wealth is like, I agree with you in the sense, I own my own land. I have access to my own water. I can grow my own food on it. I can protect it. Like, to me, that I agree that's wealth, because at the end of the day, if the US dollar completely crashed, right? What we were talking about this recently, which was, if you have, you don't have, like, if you have millions spread out across banks, right? Yeah. It's insured up to whatever the FDIC, whatever does it to 250K or whatever, right? The reality is, if all that crashed, you're not getting your money.
No.
Right? So you could have all that money stored up, but if you don't have actually physical things that your money is converted to, then, in essence, it's not a real thing, right? So I agree with you. I think it's a vehicle.
I mean, I think the way that people have used it has just been like a tool of speculation. It's become an asset that you own, and just it's not used as currency. It's just used as an asset.
Yeah.
You can't really do much with it until you liquidate that asset, convert it to something else. But you can't really buy things with it realistically.
Right.
You can buy some things, but
some things here and there, but realistic. You don't even want to do that.
On a bigger scale, no, you can't. Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't want to, you ain't getting my Bitcoin. I don't care what you got. I'm not, you can have these fiat notes, but you can't have my Bitcoin.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Are you familiar with Gresham's law?
No.
So, Gresham's law of money basically says that bad money drives out good. So back in the day, when we had when the central banks were trying to come in and whatnot, they were doing a fractional reserve thing. Coin clipping was happening. And they were issuing these fiat notes. Well, what happened was people started hoarding silver. And then because America had an abundance in silver and there was a lack of silver in Europe, people were speculating the European markets with physical silver. So good money was actually leaving the U.S. market because bad money existed. So Gresham's law says bad money drives out good money out of the market, because you don't even want to spend your silver. You're like, I don't want to give you this for this note, because if I go to the note, one day they might say I can't have it in silver, like they've had numerous times, right? Like post-Nixon shock. So, so when I think about I kind of lost my train of thought. Oh, so what I think about Bitcoin, what I say is that bad money turns good money into a reserve asset, and that's what Bitcoin has become. The fiat currency is the bad money, and Bitcoin has become a reserve asset. So Hotep Jesus's law of money says that bad money turns good money into a reserve asset, as in the case with Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Does that sound to you?
Yeah, I probably agree with that.
I mean, I think that's what Bitcoin is right now.
Yeah. You guys have Bitcoin?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have Coinbits app account?
I don't. Did you set it up?
I don't know.
All
right, guys, that's the end of this interview.
What's up?
It's like, no, I'm playing. But you gotta get on there, man. Coinbits .app. It's a great way to automatically invest in Bitcoin. Just stack your Satoshis without even thinking about it. Just sends you a receipt every Monday, and it says, hey, here's your Bitcoin receipt. And we're actually going to allow you to remove Bitcoin and store it in a wallet soon as well. So I don't even think about the accumulation of Bitcoin. Obviously, I buy physical Bitcoin. Actually, I buy cold Bitcoin as well. So last question, we'll begin to wrap up here. What are some deals on FunderFox that people should be, that you would tell the unaccredited investor to look out for on FunderFox? Some sound things, maybe where they can get, because I know a lot of unaccredited investors is poor. They're like, yo, I need a return now, right? Or I need some sort of recurring revenue. So what kind of deal should they be looking for that? Or should they not be looking for that and be looking for like the long-term home run?
Well,
yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to if you want safer money, I think you're going to be looking for some of those real estate type investments, right? Okay. So some of those where there's a projected plan, right? There's a plan of action where the exit strategy, right? So I think if you're somebody who doesn't want to take risk, right, I think you're looking more at stuff like that, right? If you are trying to play the long game, I think you're investing in a couple different tech companies, right? And one thing we are going to do is we're going to have some level of vetting for companies that get listed on FunderFox, right? So it's not just like you're just going to have like a bunch of random companies on there. Yeah, there'll be some sort of vetting, and then you have to do your research and due diligence on it. But I think the long-term game is gonna give people access that didn't have access to those tech companies before, right? But you got to approach it the way that those companies approach it, which is they put a little bit of money in this company, that company, that company, that company, knowing that one of those companies will take off, but the other ones might fail, but that might cover your spread of the loss on all those other companies. And then some of the local things might be worth. So if someone like in your community is opening some sort of retail store, or some sort of like tangible business, and you can actually you can empower them, and you can also see you can actually see their plan of action of where they're going to pull revenue from, right? And if you can see that, like for example, like a ghost kitchen or something, or like one of these like other type of delivery things, right? You can see like, okay, it's very easy for me to visualize that this person is going to go out and do this, and that's how they're going to make money, and so that's how I'm going to make money. So I think there's a couple of different approaches depending on what type of investor you are. You are somebody that's going to have high risk tolerance, or you're going to have low risk tolerance. If it's low risk tolerance, you're investing in the safe, traditional kind of things like the real estate or the tangible assets. And if you're trying to play the long-term game and hit it a little bit bigger, then you're probably spreading it out and investing in a couple of different tech companies. Yep.
Yeah. What do you, I just had this idea. What are you going to do for the hustler, AKA the broker? Because you have the investor and then you have the investee. Is there anything for the guy that says, hey, I just want to play middleman on FunderFox? Is there anything for them?
Really, that's
like a referral program or something?
The point of the crowdfunding portal is to connect the investor directly with the companies, right? So the companies are directly facing their investors, putting it out there broadly and bringing them in, right? This notion of like the middleman who kind of brings capital, I don't think that's going to be much of a play in the crowdfunding game.
Okay.
But the crowdfunding company is going to want somebody else, if that's not their core skill set, is to market their listing.
Yeah.
They're going to want to bring on people to help market it. Now, whether or not that becomes like a broker type relationship or more of like a marketing service, I think the companies and the people involved are gonna have to work that out. But
yeah, I was thinking like a referral link
yeah,
with a small percentage of.
yeah. I think they just have to be careful because you might run afoul of some regulations here.
Oh yeah, we don't want to upset the commies.
Because the SEC also regulates people that help other people find capital.
Oh my God. God forbid you help somebody get some money. Oh man.
That's the way I mean, look, the whole idea is that this is supposed to protect people from fraud.
Right.
But fraud goes on.
Anyway.
White collar crimes and fraud is like rampant, right?
Right.
But all it's done is prevent people from helping each other find capital or to benefit each other. So it's, I think it's BS, but we also don't want people to run afoul of these regulations.
Yeah. Like we said, this is like one of the openings in this whole bigger picture. So we can't, we got to move, but also tread a little bit lightly and not risk putting ourselves in trouble. So, like I said, the idea of the whole crowdfunding platform is really to connect the company directly to the average person to be able to invest in it. So that's kind of we're bridging that gap, right?
Yep. Yeah, interesting. So FunderFox is coming soon. What can they do on the website now? I see 2 calls to action. You want to walk people through that?
Yeah. So right now, we just got the website up, but we're going to be building out the platform, the crowdfunding platform that'll come out later this year. So that's going to be a later in 2021 kind of thing. Right now, what they can do is they can work with us on the consulting side. So whether they just have an idea and they want to actually get a business up and running, they can come to us, they can contact us, and we can discuss with them how do we, what steps they need to take to do that. There's certain services we can provide, obviously like legal services and things like that, and marketing, we can do that. And then, we can get them ready, so we can set them up so they can get ready to crowdfund, right? And then as soon as our platform is live, those companies will be able to list on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are the kind of things they can do right now.
And one thing I wanted to add, we didn't mention, is that we talked about educating on the company side, getting people from point zero to the, to having a functioning company. Like we're doing that without any kind of fluff or hustle. It's just like a straight doing that. But also when the companies are listed, when the crowdfunding side is up and there's companies listed, the role of the influencer becomes kind of important here, right? Because a lot of people will look up there and say, like, I want to invest in a tech startup, but like, I don't know which one of these is really good. I think educating the investor, like we're going to do something on our side to make sure that all these things are legit, that there's no hustlers, there's no fraud. That's something that we're going to do from our end. But there still needs to be further, like which of these is more likely to succeed than others. I think other influencers, people who understand technology companies, have to look at them and say, look, I think this one's a winner. And I think other people might follow suit. So I think the role of the influencer becomes something more pronounced because they can actually help unaccredited investors kind of like understand why this particular company might do well or this one might not. Nobody can guarantee anything, but at least people have that kind of thing to go off of.
That's dope. That's dope. Do you already have your engineering team in place to set this web portal up? The reason why I'm asking is because I have an engineer now I'm working with. He built the Grifties app, and him and I are in talks of building basically a web app company, because there's a lot of people right now that need apps, but they're all going to India, right? or Vietnam or Russia, right? And a lot of people don't want to deal with that, time zones, not being able to track these people down, untrustworthiness, not being able to deliver. So yeah, if you guys need some engineer help on that, we'd love to pitch in, man.
That's awesome, man. We should definitely connect.
Yeah, we can connect on that. And just like to add, I got to do the plug-in shout out so everybody knows. On Twitter, it's at FunderFoxCF, and on Instagram, we're at FunderFox. So you can follow us there. We're on LinkedIn and all that stuff. We're getting everything else set up right now, but you can connect with us there just so you can stay updated as soon as we have more news. And we're going to be putting out content, just kind of educating people on stuff, including obviously like what we just did here. So we're going to be putting out some more short informational pieces out regarding crowdfunding and just kind of, for entrepreneurs in general. So.
Sweet. That's dope.
I'll add one last thing. We're going to tease, but we're not going to say that there's one added surprise when this platform launches, there's going to be one added surprise that's going to be awesome, and it's not going to be on any other platform. I'm not going to say more than that, but just keep following FunderFox and wait for our launch.
It's Hotep Jesus. That's what it is. Great talk today, fellas. Thank you very much. Kent Thoreau, $4.99 super chat. He said, accept this watch tax if it pleases the crown. Indeed. Hey, Sharoz, Tareq, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and close out the show. You guys can go ahead and get out of here. Thank you for coming through, man.
Appreciate you having us, man.
Hey, anytime. That's it, people. Hotep Jesus. Sharp Conversations. This conversation will be on Apple, Spotify, SoundCloud in time. So make sure you go subscribe. Just type in Sharp Conversation, Sharp with an E, and that stuff will pop right up. Appreciate y'all, Hotep. I love y'all. Till the next time.